On a snowy Montana morning, Abigail Carter never expected to find a wolf standing silently at her door, her fragile pup clutched gently between jaws. But when Jack, a hunter haunted by his past, looked into the animal's pleading eyes, everything he believed began to crumble. Why had a wild predator chosen them, of all people, to save her dying child? The answer lay hidden deep within the forest, and even deeper within Jack's own heart. The first snow of the season blanketed Pine Ridge, Montana, transforming the sleepy mountain town into a silent landscape painted in hues of ivory and silver. Gentle snowflakes drifted lazily from an overcast sky, swirling in silent dances before settling softly upon rooftops and bare tree limbs. Nestled between tall, whispering pines and rugged mountains lay the modest Carter home, a cozy log cabin with smoke spiraling gently from the chimney, a beacon of warmth in the winter stillness. Inside, Abigail Carter stood by the window, her delicate hands clasping a steaming cup of coffee. Abigail, a woman in her mid-40s, possessed a gentle, nurturing demeanor that mirrored her slender, graceful build. Her chestnut hair, streaked gracefully with silver threads, was usually tied back in a simple braid, accentuating her calm blue eyes that radiated kindness. She wore a thick knitted sweater, handmade with soft wool and earthy shades, a testament to her love for all things natural and handcrafted. The gentle lines around her eyes told stories of laughter, sorrow, and an abiding compassion for creatures great and small. Her gaze drifted leisurely across the serene white expanse of their front yard, admiring the tranquil beauty of winter. But as Abigail took another sip of her coffee, she noticed something strange, a shadowy figure emerging from the edge of the woods, moving cautiously through the fresh snow toward the house. Squinting slightly, Abigail leaned forward, heart quickening when the figure came clearly into view. It was a wolf, a large gray female with fur thick and shimmering beneath the gentle snowfall. Her movements were slow and deliberate, her golden eyes alert, yet devoid of hostility. Abigail gasped softly, her breath catching as she spotted something even more astonishing. In the wolf's jaws was a tiny, limp form, a pup, barely moving, fragile and clearly unwell. Instinctively, Abigail set her cup aside, pulse hammering with an unexpected blend of worry and awe. She hurried toward the back of the house, calling urgently for her husband, Jack. Jack Carter entered the room moments later, his broad shoulders tense beneath the flannel shirt he wore, an expression of wary irritation etched across his rugged face. Jack, nearing 50, had a robust build forged from years spent hunting in Montana's harsh wilderness. His once dark hair was now peppered with gray, his green eyes sharp and penetrating, carrying shadows of a past he seldom shared openly. Jack had always been reserved, gruff at times, especially regarding wildlife. An incident nearly 2 decades ago had scarred him physically and emotionally, deepening his distrust toward wolves, creatures he had come to regard as enemies rather than animals deserving empathy. "What is it, Abby?" Jack asked gruffly, noting the tension on his wife's face. "There's a wolf outside," Abigail replied softly, her voice trembling slightly as she pointed toward the front yard. "A mother wolf, Jack, and she's carrying her pup. It looks sick." Jack's jaw tightened visibly, the familiar distaste for the predators flaring in his eyes. He stepped toward the window, hands clenched involuntarily at his sides. "A wolf?" he muttered skeptically, clearly struggling with his instinctive impulse to grab the rifle that rested, always ready near the door. But the scene awaiting him halted any action. The wolf mother stood in stark contrast against the snowy backdrop, not aggressive, not prowling, but waiting quietly. She set her tiny pup down gently onto the pristine snow, stepping back deliberately, golden eyes fixed on the cabin, eyes that seemed to communicate a silent plea. Jack's mouth hung slightly open, disbelief evident as his instincts warred with an undeniable curiosity. "That's impossible," he whispered, the words catching in his throat. "She must be sick or mad. Wolves don't behave like this, Abby." Yet Abigail shook her head firmly, stepping cautiously closer to the window. "Look at her, Jack. She isn't threatening. She brought her pup here deliberately." Abigail's gentle voice brimmed with quiet conviction, reflecting her deeply ingrained belief in the goodness and intelligence within nature. Jack remained still, tense muscles softening slightly as the wolf's steady gaze held his own. Memories stirred unbidden, painful, harsh memories of his youth, of a frightening attack in the forest during a blizzard, and the long recovery afterward. The scar on his left forearm tingled, reminding him why he had spent years holding on to bitterness toward these animals. The silence stretched between husband and wife, punctuated only by the ticking of the antique clock in the corner and the soft whispering of snowflakes outside. Abigail touched Jack's shoulder gently, feeling the familiar resistance in his stance, yet sensing beneath it a flicker of doubt, a small but potent crack in his armor of prejudice. "Jack," she murmured earnestly, her voice pleading gently, "whatever your feelings are, that pup needs help. If we don't call someone soon, it won't survive. Please." Jack hesitated, a storm brewing behind his eyes, a lifetime of resentment clashing fiercely with a deep-seated sense of moral responsibility. Finally, with a resigned sigh, he nodded, turning reluctantly from the window. "Call the wildlife center," Jack muttered quietly, voice gruff yet devoid of hostility. He moved slowly, deliberately toward the door, pulling on his thick winter coat. Abigail watched with cautious optimism as he stepped onto the porch, closing the door softly behind him. Outside, the air was crisp, biting, and laced with the sharp scent of fresh snow. Jack moved cautiously forward, boots crunching in the pristine layer beneath him. His breath misted gently in the chill as he paused several yards from the wolf and her pup, heart pounding with apprehension. The wolf mother did not move forward, nor did she retreat. She simply regarded him silently, the quiet dignity in her posture unsettling and profoundly humbling. Jack's throat tightened as he took another cautious step closer, examining the tiny pup shivering weakly in the snow. The pup's eyes were barely open, its breath shallow, visibly trembling from both cold and illness. Jack felt an unfamiliar pang deep within, a strange mixture of guilt, compassion, and unexpected vulnerability. The anger and fear he'd harbored for decades wavered slightly beneath the undeniable innocence of the scene before him. Slowly, he knelt in the snow, careful not to alarm the wolf. She made no move of aggression, only watched with patient vigilance as Jack observed her offspring. Their eyes met once more, human and animal, hunter and hunted, fear and trust intertwined in an unspoken exchange. "I don't know why you came here," Jack whispered hoarsely, his voice carrying faintly in the quiet, "but we'll try to help your pup." The wolf remained perfectly still, a silent, powerful presence. It was clear that she understood, on some primal level, the promise he'd just offered. With a sense of awe and heavy responsibility settling in his chest, Jack stood, backing slowly toward the cabin. Inside, Abigail had finished calling the Pine Ridge Wildlife Rescue, her eyes hopeful as she watched her husband return to the cabin, carrying a new resolve on his rugged features. "They'll be here soon," Abigail said softly, reaching for Jack's hand. "They said to keep an eye on her, but not to intervene until they arrive." Jack nodded silently, his gaze lingering on the mother wolf still patiently waiting outside. A strange sense of purpose and anticipation stirred within him, feelings he hadn't experienced in years. Perhaps, Jack mused quietly, this morning had brought more than unexpected guests. Perhaps it had brought him a chance to reconcile with a past he had long chosen to ignore, a chance to finally understand the creatures he once blindly feared. As they stood side by side, watching the quiet vigil of a mother wolf under falling snow, neither of them spoke. There was no need. Both knew that their lives, from this day forward, were irreversibly changed.
Jack Carter watched silently from the window, his fingers drumming restlessly on the polished wooden sill. Each gentle tap echoed the rhythm of a heartbeat long burdened by painful memories. The mother wolf, whom Abigail had already affectionately dubbed Maya, remained a silent sentinel in the front yard, her golden eyes fixed patiently yet pleadingly upon their cabin. The tiny pup, bundled softly by Abigail in one of her handmade quilts, breathed weakly in a small basket near the fireplace, its fragile condition demanding urgent care. Jack felt the presence of Abigail behind him, sensed her quiet patience, and knew she was awaiting his decision, as she always did with unwavering compassion. But the invisible scars from his past refused to loosen their hold. "Jack," Abigail spoke softly, her voice gentle yet firm. "You know we have no choice but to trust Ben and his team. They'll care for them properly." Jack grimaced slightly, tension creasing the rugged lines of his face. "It's not about trust in Ben. Wolves aren't pets, Abby. They're predators, dangerous and unpredictable." "But Jack," Abigail pressed gently, stepping closer until she stood beside him, her calm eyes locking onto his troubled gaze. "This wolf isn't dangerous. You've seen her yourself." Jack hesitated, memories flooding back with a clarity that startled him. It had been a similar winter nearly 25 years ago when his life changed forever. He'd been just 22, adventurous and headstrong, assisting an experienced trapper named Samuel Ellis. Samuel had been a towering, burly man with a grizzled beard and a sharp sense of humor, always smiling beneath his weathered hat. Jack had admired Samuel deeply, hoping to emulate his confidence and knowledge of the wilderness. But one bitterly cold evening, as darkness claimed the forest swiftly and relentlessly, they'd stumbled into a den, unknowingly disturbing a pack of wolves. The attack had been swift and brutal. Samuel had managed to fend off most of them, but Jack was severely bitten on his left forearm, leaving behind a deep, jagged scar that never fully healed, neither physically nor emotionally. Samuel Ellis had moved away shortly after, carrying a burden of guilt he never expressed aloud. "I nearly lost everything that night, Abby," Jack whispered now, the pain fresh again in his voice. "You can't expect me to suddenly trust them after what I've seen." Abigail reached out, her touch gentle yet reassuring. "Jack, I'm not asking you to forget the past, but maybe this moment came to us for a reason, to help you heal, to let go of that pain." Jack turned away sharply, moving toward the fireplace, shoulders tense beneath his thick flannel shirt. "You weren't there, Abby," he murmured, voice tight. "You didn't see what they can do." Meanwhile, outside, the wolf mother, Maya, remained resolute, enduring the harsh winter conditions without wavering. Snowflakes dusted her fur, glittering softly beneath the muted gray sky, yet she neither whimpered nor moved, steadfastly waiting, driven solely by the maternal instinct of protecting her offspring. The peaceful silence of their home was abruptly disrupted by the rumble of tires crunching over snow and gravel. Through the frosted window, Abigail spotted the arrival of the Pine Ridge Wildlife Rescue Truck. The rescue team stepped out, led by Ben Harrison, a man whose reputation in the community was one of quiet respect. Ben, in his early 50s, had silver-streaked hair and kind gray eyes framed by laugh lines earned from years spent outdoors. His build was sturdy and reassuring, reflective of his calm, patient demeanor. He wore a heavy jacket bearing the Wildlife Rescue emblem, gloves tucked carefully into his pockets. Joining him was Rachel Edwards, a younger woman in her early 30s with curly auburn hair and lively hazel eyes. Rachel was passionate and energetic, always ready to speak up for animals, her heart as warm as her smile. Her petite frame was often deceptive, her fierce determination more formidable than anyone expected. "Ben greeted Abigail vormly. We got here as quickly as possible. How's the pup?" "Not good," Abigail replied urgently, guiding him toward the basket near the fireplace. Rachel immediately knelt beside the fragile pup, expertly assessing its condition. Hypothermic, she murmured urgently, her touch gentle yet purposeful. Ben glanced toward Jack, noticing the reluctance lingering heavily on his features. "Jack," he said evenly, extending a gloved hand. "Good to see you again." Jack shook Ben's hand briefly, eyes wary. Ben smiled knowingly, sensing Jack's internal conflict. "We'll take good care of them," he assured calmly. "Wolves might surprise you, Jack. They're more like us than most people believe." Jack grunted non-committally, stepping aside as Ben's team carefully transferred the pup into an insulated crate designed to stabilize its temperature and breathing. Meanwhile, Maya continued to watch silently, her golden eyes tracking each movement cautiously yet calmly. When Rachel approached her carefully with another crate, Maya didn't retreat, instead regarding her with quiet dignity. Rachel paused respectfully, whispering soothing words. The wolf mother hesitated, then slowly moved closer, cautiously sniffing Rachel's outstretched hand, a gesture that left everyone watching breathless. Inside the cabin, Jack observed with mixed emotions, confusion swirling deeply within. Seeing Maya's remarkable restraint was chipping away at his long-held bitterness, but he refused to acknowledge it openly. After the pup and Maya were safely secured, Rachel and Ben returned briefly to speak with Jack and Abigail. "Thank you for trusting us," Ben said sincerely, eyes firmly locked onto Jack's, conveying understanding without judgment. "These wolves matter, Jack. They're part of what makes Montana special." Jack exhaled slowly, managing a slight nod. "Just make sure they're okay," he replied stiffly, voice betraying a trace of the worry he'd stubbornly denied. Rachel smiled warmly, nodding at Abigail. "We'll update you soon." Once the rescue vehicle departed, an uneasy silence settled again in the Carter home. Abigail quietly prepared tea, the simple task grounding her thoughts. Jack retreated silently to the armchair by the fire, lost in contemplation. Unexpectedly, the ringing of the telephone broke the tense quietness. Abigail answered softly, her expression shifting in surprise. She handed the phone to Jack, eyes wide. "It's Samuel Ellis," she whispered carefully, observing his reaction closely. Jack stiffened visibly, memories rushing back in waves. Reluctantly, he accepted the receiver. "Samuel," he muttered tensely, uncertainty lacing his tone. "Jack," came Samuel's voice, weathered yet filled with warmth and regret. "Heard about the wolf. I know what you're feeling right now. Trust me." Jack's jaw tightened. "You know nothing, Samuel." Samuel sighed gently. "Maybe not anymore, but I know wolves aren't monsters. We made a mistake back then, invading their territory without caution. I carried that guilt for years. Don't carry it forever, Jack." Jack listened silently, feeling the weight of years pressing heavily upon his chest. Samuel continued softly, his voice thick with remorse and sincerity. "We owe them more than fear, Jack. We owe them understanding. Maybe this is your chance to heal." Jack's voice caught slightly, emotions surging unexpectedly. "I don't know, Samuel. Think about it," Samuel encouraged quietly. "And Jack, I'm sorry." The call ended abruptly, leaving Jack staring at the receiver, Samuel's apology lingering profoundly in the silence. Abigail watched him tenderly, sensing the momentous shift occurring deep within her husband's guarded heart. Jack met Abigail's eyes slowly, expression softening subtly for the first time in years. "Maybe you're right, Abby," he murmured softly. "Maybe it's time." Outside, snow continued falling quietly, blanketing Pine Ridge in peaceful whiteness, mirroring Jack's first tentative step toward healing. Katie Carter sat quietly in her bedroom, curled beneath a thick woolen blanket, her eyes fixated on the delicate patterns of frost decorating her windowpane. At 15, Katie possessed a rare combination of youthful innocence and mature compassion. She had inherited her mother Abigail's soft chestnut hair, though hers fell in gentle waves around her slender shoulders. Her eyes, a deep, thoughtful Hazel, always seemed to reflect a wisdom beyond her years. Friends at Pine Ridge High often teased her affectionately for being an old soul, but Katie embraced it, comfortable with being different in a town where conformity was often expected. She had overheard her parents' hushed discussions about the wolf mother, Maya. Her mother had named her affectionately, and the tiny, fragile pup now struggling for life. The image of that defenseless creature haunted Katie's thoughts, weaving itself firmly into her empathetic heart. Yet her father, Jack Carter, had forbidden her from intervening, his voice strained with an authority she rarely heard, rooted in his painful history with wolves. She understood his fear, respected his experience, but she could not silence the aching need to help that stirred restlessly within her. Early that morning, Katie waited until the house grew silent, her parents occupied with chores downstairs. She moved quietly through her room, pulling on a heavy jacket and thick boots, determined yet cautious. In her trembling hands, she carefully held a thermos of warm broth and a handful of soft meat scraps wrapped neatly in cloth. She crept softly down the narrow staircase, her heart pounding so loudly she feared her parents might hear. Stepping outside, Katie was greeted by the biting chill of winter. Snow crunched beneath her feet, the sky still an overcast gray, threatening more snowfall. Breath misted from her lips as she scanned the area, searching anxiously for any sign of Maya, aware of her parents' warning about wolves and their unpredictable nature. Yet Katie felt no fear, only a gentle determination. Her gaze soon settled upon a small, shadowy form just beyond their porch, sheltered beneath the boughs of a large pine. The wolf mother lay curled quietly, her golden eyes alert yet exhausted. Maya watched Katie closely, ears perked forward in cautious curiosity, no hostility present. Katie moved slowly, deliberately, her voice soft and soothing. "Hey there," she whispered gently, as though addressing a frightened child. "It's okay, Maya. I'm here to help." She crouched at a respectful distance, carefully unwrapping the small package of meat. Maya's nostrils flared slightly at the enticing aroma, yet she remained hesitant. Katie placed the food down gently, pouring the warm broth into a shallow dish she'd brought from the kitchen. "There," Katie murmured softly, pushing the dish closer. "It's warm. It'll help you feel stronger." After a moment of cautious scrutiny, Maya stood slowly, muscles tense but controlled. She edged forward with deliberate grace, golden eyes locked on Katie's face, assessing her sincerity. Katie held her breath, remaining perfectly still, sensing a fragile bond forming between them. Inside, Jack stood silently by the kitchen window, his hand clenched tightly around a cup of cooling coffee. Abigail approached cautiously, noting the strained lines around his eyes as he watched their daughter. He could see Katie clearly, gently coaxing the wary wolf mother closer, her tenderness piercing his heart. Jack's jaw tightened, old fears battling fiercely against the new emotion blossoming within him. Pride, and a profound sense of awe for his daughter's unwavering compassion. "Jack," Abigail whispered softly, placing a reassuring hand upon his tense shoulder. "Look at her. She has your strength, your courage." Jack swallowed hard, torn between instinctive fear and paternal admiration. "It's dangerous, Abby," he whispered, voice thick with worry. "She doesn't know what wolves can do." Abigail met his gaze steadily, eyes gentle but firm. "She sees beyond our fears, Jack. She sees their souls." Jack exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of years pressing heavily upon him, then moved swiftly toward the front door, pulling on his coat. Abigail followed closely, her quiet presence reassuring. Outside, Katie had successfully coaxed Maya into tasting the food. The wolf ate cautiously but gratefully, hunger evident in her gentle movements. Katie smiled softly, her heart swelling with relief and joy. Suddenly, she heard the door creak open behind her, a startled breath catching in her throat as she turned. Jack stepped onto the porch, face unreadable beneath his stern exterior. Katie's cheeks flushed pink, bracing herself for his reprimand. Yet Jack said nothing at first, simply regarding Maya in silence, observing the wolf's gentle demeanor around his daughter. Maya raised her head, watching him warily yet without aggression. In that tense, delicate moment, Jack saw not the fearsome predator he had long imagined, but rather a creature desperate and trusting, guided purely by maternal love. Slowly, Jack approached Katie, placing a firm hand gently upon her shoulder. "That was brave, Katie," he murmured softly, his voice thick with emotion. "But it was risky." Katie looked up, earnest eyes meeting her father's gaze. "I had to, Dad. She needed help." Jack hesitated briefly, then nodded slowly, the resolve within him finally breaking down. "All right, call Ben. Tell him we need him back here now." Katie's eyes widened slightly, joy and relief flooding her expression. Abigail smiled warmly from the porch, heart swelling with quiet triumph. Soon after, the familiar wildlife rescue truck returned. Ben Harrison and Rachel Edwards quickly assessed Maya's condition, Rachel offering a friendly smile toward Katie. "You did well, Katie," Rachel praised warmly. "Your quick thinking might have saved her." Jack watched silently as Rachel and Ben gently coaxed Maya into a prepared crate, his heart heavy yet strangely lighter. Ben paused, sensing Jack's conflicted emotions. "Thanks for calling us again, Jack," he said sincerely. "I know it wasn't easy." Jack nodded stiffly, his eyes flickering toward Katie, who now stood beside Abigail, pride evident in both their eyes. "It was necessary," Jack murmured quietly, voice barely audible. "For all of us." As Ben and Rachel departed once more, silence settled peacefully over the Carter home. Abigail hugged Katie gently, pride radiating warmly in her gaze. Jack stood quietly apart, eyes thoughtful, expression softened noticeably by an inner shift he still found difficult to accept fully. That night, Katie lay in bed, thoughts swirling gently in the quiet darkness. The day had changed something fundamental in their family, something intangible yet undeniably powerful. She smiled softly, closing her eyes, comforted by the quiet, reassuring presence of her parents in the room below. Jack sat by the fire, staring into the dancing flames, memories mingling gently with fresh hope. Abigail joined him, settling quietly at his side. "You made the right decision, Jack," she whispered gently, hands seeking his own. Jack squeezed her hand softly, eyes reflecting quiet acceptance. "Maybe Katie taught me something today, Abby. Maybe we can all learn from her courage." Outside, snowflakes continued drifting gently, blanketing Pine Ridge once more in serene, peaceful silence, a fitting backdrop for a family learning anew the profound power of compassion. Ben Harrison eased the wildlife rescue truck gently through the thickening snow, carefully navigating the winding roads back toward Pine Ridge Wildlife Center. Beside him sat Rachel Edwards, diligently monitoring Maya, who rested quietly in a secure crate in the truck's spacious rear compartment, golden eyes occasionally flickering with wary curiosity. Ben, always calm and measured, wore a thoughtful expression beneath his silver-streaked hair, his lined features etched deeper by the passing years of outdoor labor. His weathered jacket bore the faded emblem of countless rescues, a silent testimony to decades spent nurturing Montana's wildlife. Rachel glanced at Ben, sensing his quiet contemplation. Her vibrant, auburn curls were tied back loosely, accentuating her lively hazel eyes. Rachel's slight build disguised her inner strength and unwavering determination. "You seem lost in thought," she remarked gently, her voice carrying a hint of friendly teasing. Ben smiled softly, his gray eyes distant with memory. "I'm thinking about Maya," he admitted quietly. "She and I share quite a history." Rachel turned fully toward him, intrigued. "You knew her before today?" Ben nodded slowly, adjusting his grip on the wheel as the snow intensified, the flakes striking softly against the windshield. 6 years ago, Maya was caught in a hunting trap, illegal, barbaric, set deep in the old forest outside Pine Ridge. She was young then, hardly more than a year old, badly injured and near death when we found her. He paused, voice tightening slightly as the painful memories resurfaced. We brought her back to the center, work day and night to save her. She was incredibly gentle, Rachel, more trusting of humans than any wild animal I've known. But once healed, we had no choice but to release her. That was the hardest part. Rachel listened quietly, sensing the depth of emotion hidden behind his calm demeanor. She remembered you today, Rachel observed gently. She trusted us because of that. Ben exhaled softly, nodding. Animals don't forget kindness, he murmured thoughtfully, eyes watching the snowy landscape blur past. Or cruelty. Meanwhile, back at the Carter home, Jack paced restlessly by the fire, haunted by fragmented images from the past, a past entangled deeply with Maya herself, though he had yet to fully understand the connection. Abigail watched him silently, sensing the turmoil within. Finally, she spoke, her voice gentle yet firm. Jack, maybe it's time you confronted this head-on. Speak with Ben openly. He might help you find peace. Jack paused mid-step, face tense, eyes guarded. You don't know everything, Abby. This goes deeper than anyone understands. Abigail regarded him quietly, compassion radiating from her calm blue eyes. Then let Ben help you see clearly. It's time, Jack. Reluctantly, Jack agreed, pulling his coat tightly around his shoulders before stepping out into the crisp winter air. The snow had softened to a gentle, silent whisper, blanketing Pine Ridge in serene quietness as he drove slowly toward the wildlife center, heart heavy yet resolute. Upon arriving, Jack found Ben carefully securing Maya in a comfortable holding pen, gently assessing her condition alongside Rachel. Jack approached hesitantly, his presence surprising Ben, who greeted him warmly yet cautiously. Jack, didn't expect to see you again so soon. Jack nodded stiffly, clearing his throat awkwardly. Ben, we need to talk. Ben sensed the urgency, stepping away from the pen and gesturing toward a small office nearby. Inside, he poured 2 cups of hot coffee, placing one gently before Jack. What's on your mind? Jack hesitated, fingers gripping the mug tightly. Samuel Ellis called me. He began quietly. Told me something I hadn't realized. Said we disturbed those wolves all those years ago. Invaded their territory, provoked the attack. Ben listened patiently, nodding slowly. Samuel was right. Wolves don't attack humans unless threatened or cornered. But there's something more specific you should know, Jack. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the weight of Ben's revelation. Ben continued slowly, cautiously choosing his words. The wolf that attacked you wasn't simply aggressive. She was a mother protecting her pups. You stumbled too close to her den. Jack's breath caught sharply, heart hammering painfully within his chest. How do you know that, Ben? Because I was there too, Ben confessed softly, his voice tinged with regret. Samuel contacted me after the incident. We went back to track the wolves and discovered their den, along with signs you'd unknowingly disturbed it. She never intended to kill you, Jack, only drive you away. Jack felt dizzy, emotions swirling fiercely within him. The realization stripped away years of anger and bitterness, leaving him vulnerable yet strangely relieved. That mother wolf was Maya's mother? Ben nodded solemnly. Yes, Maya was one of those pups we rescued later, after her mother died, tried to protect them from hunters. It wasn't your fault, Jack. It was tragic circumstances. Jack's eyes glistened slightly, the revelation shaking him profoundly. He spoke hesitantly, voice raw with regret. I've hated them so long, blamed them, but it was me, wasn't it? I provoked it unknowingly. Ben reached forward, placing a comforting hand on Jack's shoulder. You were young and inexperienced, Jack. Let go of that guilt. Maya's here now, alive and trusting humans again. Maybe this is your chance at redemption, for both of you. Jack exhaled shakily, absorbing the revelation quietly. Meanwhile, Rachel appeared at the doorway, softly interrupting. Sorry to disturb, she murmured gently, but the pup is waking up. Jack followed Ben and Rachel quickly to the small infirmary, heart pounding anxiously. There, The tiny wolf pup lay curled softly on a heated pad, its breathing steadier now, eyes opening slowly, bright and curious. Jack felt an unexpected warmth spread through his chest, watching the tiny creature struggle bravely back toward life. Rachel smiled gently. "He's stronger already. Your daughter likely saved his life, Jack." Jack nodded quietly, pride filling his heart. "Katie sees more clearly than I ever did," he admitted softly, eyes never leaving the pup. "She saw past my fear." Ben observed Jack thoughtfully, sensing a powerful change stirring within him. "Would you like to name him, Jack?" Ben offered gently, understanding the profound significance. Jack hesitated briefly, then spoke softly, almost shyly. "Let's call him Ellis, after Samuel. A reminder to me of forgiveness and healing." Ben smiled approvingly, nodding slowly. "A good name, Jack." As evening fell over Pine Ridge, Jack returned home, feeling lighter, heart burdened no longer by hatred or misplaced blame. Abigail greeted him warmly, sensing immediately the quiet transformation within him. "Jack," she whispered softly, embracing him tenderly, "you found peace today, didn't you?" Jack held her tightly, nodding slowly. "I think I'm beginning to, Abby." Outside, the snow continued gently falling, wrapping Pine Ridge once more in a blanket of serene silence. A fitting backdrop for Jack Carter's first cautious steps toward healing the wounds of a long, unresolved past. The snowstorm intensified over Pine Ridge, Montana, blanketing everything beneath heavy layers of white, as thick flakes continued falling relentlessly from the gray sky. Outside the Wildlife Center, Maya remained steadfast on the porch, her dense fur coated with snow, golden eyes never wavering from the entrance. Her unwavering loyalty struck Jack deeply, watching her from inside through the frosted window pane. Inside the Wildlife Center's infirmary, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. Rachel Edwards, her fiery curls now pinned back tightly, moved swiftly yet gently as she and Ben Harrison meticulously checked Ellis, the tiny wolf pup whose breathing had grown alarmingly shallow in the past hour. Despite their best efforts, the pup's condition had unexpectedly worsened, sending waves of anxiety rippling through the team. "We're losing time," Rachel murmured, her usually cheerful voice now strained. "Ellis's temperature is dangerously low, and the antibiotics aren't working fast enough." Ben nodded gravely, brows knit in determination as he adjusted the heat lamp and gently repositioned Ellis beneath warm blankets. "He's resilient, but his body's still weak. We need more than medicine. He needs his mother's warmth and care." Jack watched silently from the doorway, feeling utterly helpless. His powerful frame seemed diminished by anxiety, the rugged lines on his face deeper now, shadowed by uncertainty. For the first time, Jack fully grasped the magnitude of nature's fragility and strength intertwined. This innocent creature, now fighting bravely to survive, embodied both. Suddenly, a hurried knock at the infirmary door broke the tense silence. Standing in the doorway was Daniel Brooks, Pine Ridge's local veterinarian, a tall, lean man in his early 40s with dark, thoughtful eyes, neatly trimmed beard, and quiet yet steady confidence. Daniel had worked closely with the Wildlife Center in emergency situations before, earning respect from Ben and his team. "I got your message." Daniel spoke quickly, shedding snow from his thick navy coat. "How's the pup?" Ben stepped forward, relief evident. "Critical, Dan. We need your help." Daniel moved immediately to Ellis, expertly assessing his condition, his experienced hands gentle yet decisive. "Severe respiratory distress, malnutrition, and exposure," he summarized swiftly, pulling out additional equipment from his bag. "We must stabilize his breathing first." Jack watched quietly as Daniel administered oxygen, adjusted medications, and coordinated efficiently with Rachel and Ben. Their seamless teamwork filled Jack with admiration and deep regret. He remembered Samuel Ellis's words clearly now, echoing in his mind. "We owe them understanding." Jack finally comprehended the depth of those words, sensing his own hardened perceptions softening into something new and meaningful. Meanwhile, outside on the porch, Katie stood hesitantly beside Maya, her slender form bundled warmly in her coat. Despite the heavy snowfall, Katie had insisted on staying with Maya, feeling responsible for keeping the wolf mother company. Maya, sensing Katie's gentle presence, allowed her to approach closely, even permitting Katie's cautious hand to briefly stroke her thick, snow-covered fur. Katie murmured softly to Maya, soothing the wolf's visible anxiety. "Your baby's strong, Maya. He's a fighter, just like you." Jack emerged onto the porch, eyes widening slightly at the unexpected sight, his daughter standing confidently beside the very animal he'd once deeply feared. He felt his heart surge painfully yet warmly, recognizing in that moment the profound change unfolding within him, mirrored vividly by Katie's bravery and compassion. Katie looked up, noticing her father's presence. "Dad," she whispered softly, eyes pleading yet determined. "Ellis needs her." "She needs him." Jack hesitated only briefly before nodding solemnly. "I know," he admitted quietly, stepping closer, his voice low but steady. "I finally understand." Katie's eyes glistened with quiet pride, grateful for her father's newfound openness. Maya raised her head slightly, sensing Jack's shift in demeanor, her golden eyes holding no accusation, only quiet patience. Inside the infirmary, Daniel's urgent interventions finally began taking effect. Ellis's breathing slowly steadied, his tiny body responding positively to the treatments. Daniel exhaled softly, relief evident in his usually composed demeanor. "He's stabilizing," Daniel confirmed cautiously, eyes serious yet hopeful. "But the critical stage isn't over. He needs Maya. Ben needed decisively. Then it's time we reunited them. Ellis needs warmth and maternal bonding, where he won't fully recover." Jack stepped forward, determination now clear in his rugged features. "Let me bring her in," he offered quietly, eyes firmly resolved. Ben and Daniel exchanged a quick glance, sensing Jack's sincere commitment. Carefully, Jack approached Maya outside, moving slowly and deliberately. The wolf mother watched him cautiously but without aggression, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Maya," Jack murmured gently, kneeling in the snow, eyes level with hers. "Ellis needs you now. We both have to trust each other." Maya's ears twitched slightly, her gaze unblinking yet gentle. With quiet, deliberate movements, Jack opened the door wider, softly encouraging Maya forward. After a tense hesitation, she moved gracefully into the infirmary, golden eyes fixed anxiously upon her pup. Ben guided Maya gently toward Ellis, who whimpered softly, instantly recognizing his mother's comforting presence. Maya settled carefully beside him, curling protectively around his tiny form. Almost immediately, Ellis's breathing deepened, warmth radiating through his small body, comforted profoundly by his mother's presence. Jack watched silently, overwhelmed by emotion, his heart stirring powerfully at the beauty of trust now fully realized. Abigail had arrived quietly during the scene, standing softly beside Katie, eyes shining warmly with silent pride and deep affection. "Jack," Abigail whispered gently, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "This is the trust you were seeking. They trust you too." Jack nodded slowly, heart filled with newfound humility. "I've never seen anything so beautiful," he admitted softly, voice thick with emotion. Rachel smiled warmly, capturing the quiet awe everyone shared. Daniel, always composed, allowed himself a gentle sigh of relief, satisfaction visible behind his quiet, confident exterior. Later that evening, with Ellis and Maya peacefully reunited, Jack sat quietly beside the infirmary fireplace, reflecting deeply on everything he'd experienced. Ben joined him, offering a friendly nod. "You've come a long way, Jack," he remarked sincerely. "Not many men face their fears this bravely." Jack smiled faintly, eyes thoughtful. "I didn't know I was afraid. Not of wolves, but of myself, of the truth. It was easier blaming them." Ben regarded Jack quietly, understanding clearly the profound realization Jack had reached. "Nature teaches us powerful lessons," he replied gently. "Trust, forgiveness, humility. It's all interconnected." Jack nodded silently, absorbing Ben's wisdom deeply. Outside, the storm finally subsided, leaving behind a peaceful, pristine landscape, freshly coated in white, a symbolic cleansing of old fears and mistrust. Katie and Abigail quietly joined Jack by the fire, each feeling the warmth of shared understanding and newfound closeness. Jack pulled Katie into a warm embrace, murmuring softly, "Thank you for showing me the way, Katie. I see clearly now." Katie hugged him tightly, heart full. "You always had it inside you, Dad. I knew you'd find it." The Carter family sat peacefully together, hearts lighter, stronger, united through courage, compassion, and a bond now forged permanently with the wild. In the days that followed the critical night, a subtle transformation enveloped the Carter household. Pine Ridge slowly thawed from the recent storm, the landscape shining brilliantly beneath winter sunlight, a gentle warmth melting away the lingering frost. Inside the Wildlife Center's infirmary, little Ellis began showing remarkable signs of recovery. His breathing strengthened, his eyes brightened with newfound alertness, and the lively curiosity of a healthy wolf pup began to surface. Maya remained close at his side, her vigilant maternal care unwavering, clearly instrumental in his swift and miraculous healing. Jack Carter visited daily, quietly observing from a respectful distance, offering silent gestures of support and understanding. Each visit softened the rugged lines etched deeply into his face, gradually dissolving the hardness that years of bitterness and misunderstanding had created. He stood now as a different man, a man humbled by nature's grace, finally willing to learn from its silent yet powerful lessons. Ben Harrison, recognizing Jack's sincere transformation, approached him one crisp morning after the family had gathered once more to see Ellis's continuing progress. Ben's steady gray eyes carried quiet determination, the kind born of years advocating tirelessly for wildlife. "Jack," Ben began warmly, a hint of a smile beneath his silver-streaked beard, "Ellis wouldn't have survived without your family. You played a crucial part." Jack shook his head modestly, eyes glancing toward Maya, gently grooming her pup, an image now etched profoundly into his memory. "I was wrong for a long time, Ben. You all did the hard work. I was just slow to understand." Ben smiled knowingly, placing a reassuring hand on Jack's shoulder. "Perhaps, but you're exactly the person Pine Ridge needs now. Your voice matters here, especially given your past. People will listen." Jack hesitated, absorbing the weight of Ben's words, sensing both the responsibility and opportunity hidden within them. It was Abigail who gently stepped beside him, her quiet presence offering strength. "He's right, Jack," she whispered, voice gentle yet firm. "You have the power to influence change." Katie joined them quietly, her thoughtful hazel eyes sparkling softly with pride. "Dad, you've already changed. People deserve to see how nature can heal hearts." Jack exhaled deeply, feeling the supportive warmth of his family's unwavering faith. Slowly, he nodded decisively. "All right," he agreed quietly, determination clear in his voice. "Let's do this together." With that, Jack Carter began a new chapter of his life, firmly putting aside his hunting gear, his old rifle finally stored away permanently. His days quickly filled with new tasks, assisting Ben at the Wildlife Center, learning from Daniel Brooks during medical treatments, and studying tirelessly about wolf behavior and conservation methods. Together, Ben and Jack planned the first community event in Pine Ridge dedicated to wildlife education. With Rachel Edwards' enthusiastic help, they organized presentations, workshops, and open forums designed to address misconceptions and fears, emphasizing compassion, understanding, and coexistence. One chilly yet bright Saturday morning, Pine Ridge's community hall bustled with residents eager yet skeptical about this unprecedented initiative. Among the townspeople arriving was Margaret Lawson, a respected elderly woman in her late 70s, known affectionately as Aunt Maggie by many in Pine Ridge. Margaret was slender, small-framed, with soft silver hair always pulled neatly into a simple bun. Her keen blue eyes held a gentle warmth, though tempered by the wariness developed over decades living in a town historically wary of wolves. Margaret cautiously approached Jack, curiosity evident behind her friendly but reserved demeanor. "Jack Carter," she began softly, her voice steady yet kind, "I never expected you to trade rifles for advocacy." Jack smiled warmly, offering her a reassuring handshake. "Neither did I, Maggie. But sometimes it takes seeing clearly for the first time to truly understand." Margaret regarded him thoughtfully, nodding slowly. "If someone like you can change, maybe it's time we all reconsidered our prejudices." As Jack stood to address the gathered crowd, his voice resonated with quiet sincerity and humility. He openly shared his story, the trauma, the misunderstanding, and finally the redemption. He described Maya's extraordinary devotion to Ellis, how witnessing such profound love had reshaped his beliefs forever. His heartfelt testimony resonated deeply within the community, striking chords of empathy and recognition among the gathered residents. Katie watched her father speak proudly, feeling the significance of his transformation ripple through the crowd, subtly changing perceptions and hearts. Abigail stood quietly beside her, eyes shimmering softly, deeply moved by the powerful moment of reconciliation unfolding before them. After Jack finished, Ben stepped forward, skillfully guiding discussions, answering questions, dispelling myths with patience and clarity. Rachel passionately shared personal experiences from rescue missions, vividly demonstrating the compassionate nature of wildlife rescue work. Daniel Brooks explained veterinary interventions that save countless animals, strengthening the emotional bonds connecting Pine Ridge residents with local wildlife. The event concluded with resounding success, a palpable shift occurring within Pine Ridge's collective heart. Residents departed the community hall with new perspectives, discussing enthusiastically the possibilities of harmonious coexistence with wildlife rather than fear-based avoidance. In the quiet aftermath, Jack stood alone outside the hall, breathing in the crisp air deeply, feeling profoundly grateful. Maya and Ellis would soon return to the wild, healthy and strong. Yet their presence would forever remain in his heart, powerful symbols of trust and redemption. Ben approached quietly, standing beside him, eyes reflecting the day's significance. "You did well today, Jack," he remarked sincerely, a gentle pride evident in his calm voice. Jack smiled slightly, humility evident. "We all did, and we'll continue. This is just the beginning." Ben nodded in silent agreement, feeling hopeful and confident about Pine Ridge's brighter future. Days later, as the time arrived for Maya and Ellis to be released, Jack stood quietly with his family beside the open enclosure gate. Maya stepped forward first, pausing briefly, her golden eyes locking warmly upon Jack's face, expressing silent gratitude. She gently nudged Ellis forward, the young pup energetic and curious, now fully healed. Katie waved softly, eyes bright with affection. Abigail stood with quiet dignity, heart swelling with emotion as they watched mother and pup slowly disappear into the vast, beautiful wilderness surrounding Pine Ridge. Jack felt a profound sense of peace watching them leave. He knew this was not truly an ending, but rather the powerful beginning of a deeper, more meaningful journey. Turning slowly toward Abigail and Katie, he smiled warmly, eyes reflecting his quiet determination. "We've learned something invaluable here. Nature isn't something to fear. It's something we protect, honor, and learn from." Abigail gently squeezed his hand, eyes soft with pride and love. Katie hugged him tightly, joy radiating from her gentle smile. The Carter family stood together, forever changed, embracing a new path shaped by trust, compassion, and newfound purpose. Maya and Ellis had come to their doorstep seeking help, yet they had given the Carter family something infinitely more valuable in return: redemption, understanding, and hope. In life, sometimes our greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. Jack Carter learned that trust and compassion can heal not only the wounds of the body, but also those of the heart. Like Jack, we all carry fears and misunderstandings, yet it's never too late to open our hearts and embrace understanding, kindness, and forgiveness. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs a reminder of the beauty that trust and love can create. Comment Amen if you believe in second chances and redemption. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that remind us all of the power of compassion and faith. May God bless you and your loved ones always. Amen.